All right. Good evening and welcome to this Tuesday, October 19th, 2021 meeting of the Raymore Planning and Zoning Commission. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, moving to roll call. Commissioner Bowie is absent this evening. Commissioner Ingert?
Present.
Commissioner Faulkner?
Present.
Vice Chair Pfizer?
Present.
Commissioner Mansard?
Present.
Secretary Peterman?
Present.
Commissioner Kia?
Present.
Mayor Turnbow?
Present.
And Chairman Wiggins is present. So we have no scheduled appearances for this evening, so they'll move us into our consent agenda, which we have 3 items on the agenda. Item A, the approval of minutes from the October 5th, 2021 meeting. Item B, case 21033, Stegmeyer Acres, Lot 2, replat. And item C, case 21034, Eastbrook at Creekmore, third plat. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of these items either individually, if necessary, or as a whole.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Faulkner.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
And do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Faulkner, a second by Mayor Turnbow to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion of the items? If not, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Seeing all hands, it passes 8-0. Thank you. We have no unfinished business for the evening, so we'll move into our new business. We have 3 items tonight. Our first item is case 21028, Hawk Ridge Park West Site Plan. And I would invite the applicant to please come forward to present their case, or city staff if that is one and the same.
Thank you, sir. Members of the P&Z. I'm Nathan Mustine. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director. I'm here on behalf of the Park Board to present site plans for West Hawk Ridge Park improvements. The plans that are before you now are part of the no tax increase bond issue. There's a 2-part process to the improvements at Hawk Ridge Park. This particular one is on the west side, obviously, where the soccer fields are, and the north shelter, what we currently call the north shelter, which is typically it's between Loris Drive and Johnston Drive on that portion of the park. The site plans include improvements of the parking area at the soccer complex, a portable restroom cover, which would be like a porta pot, but a permanent structure that would cover that so that it wouldn't be unsightly, but it would be a permanent fixture there. A trail around the soccer park, a trail that connects the west side down to the playground area or the north shelter, and also Loris Drive, which would be a one-way drive going from Johnston west towards Loris. The project itself will be bid into different components so that we can, as a park board and as a council, select those projects or those portions that fit within our budget. Specifically, the Loris Drive is an alternate. It is not listed in the base bid, but the parking lot, the soccer improvements, the trail, all of those are base bid. That is the basics of the program or the project itself. I'm happy to answer any questions, narrate through what you might have. I feel like what we presented here meet all the requirements. From a city perspective, I've gone over this with our city engineer and our development services director, and we all feel this project is ready to go in terms of completing the bidding documents and going out to bid. I will also add one more thing. This is a little bit cart before the horse. Typically, the park board would see this before planning and zoning, but just because of the way some illnesses and some things have worked out this past month, we wanted to stay on track. The park board has seen this on several occasions, and it is scheduled to be at their meeting next Tuesday night. It was scheduled previously for September, which would have been before your meeting, but it's just the way this kind of happened, and we determined to go ahead and move forward so that we stay on track.
Yes, Mr. Zur.
I just want to make sure and provide, I believe the staff has had the opportunity. I would note that there are, I believe, 10 separate conditions that have been provided as far as the staff report and recommendation is concerned. Make sure staff has had the opportunity to review that and are in agreement with those 10 conditions for purposes of tonight's meeting.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Zur. Any members of the commission have immediate questions for Mr. Mustine? All right, do we have a staff report, Mr. Carteret?
Yes.
Or Mr. Eppert?
Good evening, Chair and Planning Commissioners. Tonight you have in front of you Hawk Ridge Park West. Let's see. This is going to be the west extension of essentially what exists today as the Hawk Ridge Park. There's going to be, like Mr. Mustine had said, 5 soccer fields, a portable restroom, and then there's 3 separate designated areas for parking. This property is currently zoned PR, or Parks and Rec, for public use. Existing surrounding uses to the north are going to be undeveloped, and I believe that's the Parkside subdivision. And to the south, east, and west are all single-family residential. Total tract size is 79 acres. The future land use plan containing the growth management identifies the property as appropriate. The applicant is seeking approval for the Hawk Ridge Park West improvements, parking lot, portable restroom, roof enclosure, existing parking lot off Johnson Drive flowing to the west of Loris Drive with those 2 attached parking spaces. There were 2 comments from staff, or I'm sorry, there's one. One from the fire department. If that access to Loris Drive is constructed to just have a no parking sign on one side, as that's only built essentially for one flow of traffic, one lane flow of traffic. Engineering did not have any issues with the proposal. It meets all requirements. Staff recommends Planning Commission accept the staff proposed findings of fact, and staff would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, sir. Any commissioners have any questions of staff or the applicant on this item? Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
So I was looking at the engineering plan that you have that shows the soccer fields and the grass parking. I noticed you have an entrance and exit for the grass parking, but it looks like it overlaps existing parking there and crosses the track. I was just kind of curious as to what level of ease that will be for people to climb over that parking and into the grassy area for overflow parking. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, sir.
Because I assume it's going to be curbed, but how would they get over that?
Okay, so the curbing will be like a ribbon curbing. It won't be a raised curb, so it'll be a flat ribbon curbing. The parking stalls will just be parking blocks, but those particular areas will be reinforced concrete so they can drive over and not damage the asphalt.
Okay.
It's strictly for special events, overflow parking. Otherwise,
Right.
that access won't be allowed into the grass parking.
Okay. And the overflow, I assume, is for tournaments? Or do you actually expect any overflow from the amphitheater?
Well, the soccer fields are designed for practice only. We don't have any intentions right now of playing games there unless
Okay.
needed. The overflow parking would be for like the mud run and any events at the amphitheater, things of that nature.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
A quick question. So I would assume, since those aren't intended for games, so those are grass turf as opposed to synthetic.
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item, please.
Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Urquia.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we accept the staff proposed finding of fact and approve case number 21028 Hawk Ridge Park West site plan, subject to the 10 conditions outlined.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Urquia, second by Commissioner Manser to accept staff findings of fact and approve case 21028 Hawk Ridge Park West site plan, subject to the 10 conditions outlined. Any discussion of the item? All those in favor? Seeing all 8 hands, that passes 8-0. Thank you. All right, moving right along to our next item. This is case 21032, Creekmore 7th Amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding. This item does require a public hearing, which I will open at this time and ask the applicant to please come forward and present your case.
Good evening, Steve Warger, 6127 Northwest Pine Ridge Circle, Parkville, Missouri. I'm here tonight on behalf of Cooper Land Development. We're asking for this change to the, or amendment to the MOU to basically what we're doing is eliminating all the duplex lots. When this was originally designed, they had the single-family patio homes and duplexes, and we have never gone through with the duplexes at any time. We just go through and pick these off as we go. The majority of this is in the southeasterly or south central part of the subdivision, the overall subdivision. Basically west of hole 15 and north to a little bit of hole 15. There was a long list and a long line of lots, and that's Eastbrook 3rd that you just approved earlier tonight. And then there's 2 more small cul-de-sacs to the north, which probably be Edgewater 8th and Eastbrook 4th. Not sure exactly where we're going with that. The MOU revision does not change any of the setbacks, lot area designations. And just so you know, the Eastbrook 3rd compared to the Eastbrook 1st and 2nd is not the smaller lots. We're back to the normal size lots. It's not that we may come in later on, and this does allow for that, to maybe do Eastbrook 4th to the north in the smaller lots, or even up on the northeasterly part of the subdivision. We had duplexes up in that area, and so we may come back with something on the smaller lots later on with that. But for this at this point, it's mostly to get Eastbrook 3rd and those areas right near there from the duplex to the single family. Happy to answer any questions.
Any commissioners have any questions of the applicant? Very good. Do we have a staff report, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So the Creekmore Memorandum of Understanding has been in place since the approval of the subdivision back in 2004. Mr. Warger indicated this is now the 7th amendment. Previous amendments included removing the other areas that were 2-family and converting them to single family. So that's the main purpose for the amendment this evening. Since the MOU was approved as part of the preliminary plan at a public hearing, any amendments require a public hearing. They were advertised for this evening. So need to enter into the record the notice of publication in the Journal newspaper, the Unified Development Code, our growth management plan, the staff report that's submitted this evening, and then the proposed 7th amendment to the MOU. At your dais this evening, I did place an updated copy of that MOU. So there were 2 things that have changed from what was included in your packet. The table itself had, we made a couple of adjustments to the overall numbers. So again, what was reflected left at your dais are the correct numbers for the land use summary table. And then the second change that we made, part of the MOU 7th Amendment is also clarifying the understanding that the city and developer have for the timing of 163rd Street through the remainder of Creekmore. So right now, 163rd Street goes past the clubhouse, heading east, stops at the end of Westbrook 14th. The city GO bond project will actually extend 163rd to its intersection with Sunset Lane, which is another GO bond project, but the road would stop there. From Sunset to Creekmore's east property line, which is not all the way to Madison Street, it stops short of Madison Street. Cooper Land Development's required to install that part of 163rd Street. Then the Parkside subdivision, which we approved to the south, actually then makes that final connection of 163rd to Madison Street. This MOU, we simply wanted to have clarification in it to be certain of triggers that could require the Cooper Land Development to complete that segment of 163rd from Sunset to their property line. So you'll see there's 4 triggers depending upon what happens first scenario that the city wanted a definitive time frame for when that segment would be completed. Cooper has agreed to those, to the timing, A, B, C, and D that you see in the MOU that's at your dais. What was included in your packet also had a letter of credit requirement. We have removed that. The city and Cooper have agreed to remove that requirement. So that's why what you have before you does not include that language. City staff were comfortable with the wording of the MOU that ensures that that road segment would be done at the latest 36 months from when that Eastbrook subdivision you just approved is completed. So we believe we have agreement from Cooper and the city on the MOU. Again, that was left at your dais. I just wanted to explain those changes from what you saw in your packet. Staff submitted proposed findings again on your the amendment to the preliminary plan. There is the land use exhibit that was included in your packet that shows the new single-family designations, in essence, for all the land now within Creekmore. And that exhibit dated 9/15/21. We will update that exhibit for that land use table that you see on that exhibit so it matches what's in the MOU. Just couldn't get that completed for this evening, but we'll try to get that completed before it goes to City Council. And with that, staff does recommend approval of the 7th Amendment to the Creekmore MOU and that the commission accept our findings of fact. That would conclude staff report.
Thank you, sir. Any members of the commission have any questions? Yes, Mr. Urquilla.
Yeah, on the Exhibit B for 9/15/21, the southeast corner shows 2-family. Is that accurate, or should that be single family like the 11/19/19 shows it a single family, but then the 2021 shows?
Yeah, the text in the bottom right to the southeast of hole number 12. That's the part of Creekmore that's almost done.
It says 2-family.
It says
so we'll
2-family,
get that
but
updated.
Okay.
and that's the section that we approved
Yeah.
2 years ago or
No,
whatever.
I know. I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that that wasn't because he shows what he show what we're doing,
Right.
and then but that still said 2-family. So I just wanted to make sure that we.
And that's
correct
just
that.
the text that says that.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Faulkner.
same item. I don't believe it is just the text. The actual map there of, I guess it would be Eastbrook 1 and 2 on the September 15th, 2021 map is not the current layout with Clover and Hive. And actually got it. So it's not just the table, it is the map.
One comment on that, though, a lot of the layouts of the lots actually aren't matching exactly what was approved. Since it is a conceptual plan, we haven't required them to update based upon the exact lot layout, but certainly want the land use designations to be single family.
Sure.
Because that's really what this map is dictating is the land use.
Yeah, because it doesn't show the homes on the south side of the street there. Any additional questions or comments?
But yeah, that's how we would handle it. I don't think it needs to be conditioned. We'll get the map updated, though. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir, Mr. Manser.
one quick question for Mr. Carteret. The updated MOU that we've been given before the meeting tonight does mention that there are an estimated and maximum 24 2-family units. Are those previously approved?
Those were 24 units that, if you look at in your packet, there was the current land use map has an area at the very northeast corner, which is 155th and Madison Street, was actually also 2-family. but the proposed map is showing that as single family. So the actual number of units now for two-family would be 0.
Okay, gotcha. Thank
I
you.
believe we can update that as well with
Okay.
the map and the table.
Gotcha.
So that would essentially that would convert the entire subdivision to single family. So it's just eliminating.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to dispose of the item.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir, Mr. Manser.
I would like to make a motion to accept the staff proposed finding of fact and forward case number 21032 to the City Council with a recommendation of approval.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Manser, a second by Secretary Peterman to accept staff proposed findings of fact and forward case 21032. I will state that it's the 7th amendment to the Creekmore Memorandum of Understanding to the City Council for a recommendation of approval. Is that okay that I amended that slightly, sir? Very good. Any final discussion? Yes, sir. Mr. Akia.
Real quick, on the removal of the letter of credit, could you expand a little bit more on why we were comfortable releasing that?
With the 4 trigger events, and the critical trigger event really is that within the 36 months, they're required to commence that construction within that 36 months from when the city accepts the improvements to Eastbrook 3rd plat. And the reason we tied it to Eastbrook 3rd is that final plat that you approved extends south but doesn't go all the way to 163rd Street. So we as a city, in order to allow that Eastbrook 3rd the way they want to construct it, felt that we had to have some trigger event. We couldn't just go forever without knowing that Cooper will build that segment of roadway that they committed to build. So we had the letter of credit in there. After discussions with Cooper, the cost involved in getting that document, the money's probably better spent on improvements in the subdivision since we now have the guarantee that they'll do it within the 36 months. So we were comfortable with those trigger conditions of eliminating the letter of credit. Really didn't think it served an additional purpose, an additional benefit to the city. If Cooper walks away from this development over the next 36 months, that requirement, this MOU stays with the property, and any person that would ever purchase the remaining land would still have to abide by the commitment to do 163rd Street. So we're comfortable not having that letter of credit. Again, don't feel it did a real benefit to us. It was something we put in a draft, discussions, and we hadn't finished all of our discussions before I sent your packet. So that's why, that decision was made yesterday, and so that's why we have updated the language and can feel comfortable with what the triggers are.
Do you need any additional information? Commissioner Akia?
I'm good.
Very good. Okay. Any final questions? Oh, Mr. Zer.
Yeah.
I see your finger.
Public hearing.
Yes, I'm sorry. You are right. So since this is a public hearing, I will ask and invite the public to come speak on this item. If any members of the public would like to address the podium at this time, please do so. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Thank you for catching that. So we have a motion and a second, and we've had a discussion, so public hearing is closed. I would take a vote of all those in favor. Seeing all 8 hands, passed unanimously 8-0. Thank you. So that will take us into our final case of this evening, case 21031, the Unified Development Code 34th Amendment. This one also requires a public hearing, which I will open at this time, and would ask the city to provide a staff report.
Thank you, sir. So this evening, we are officially presenting the 34th Amendment to the Unified Development Code. Again, this 34th Amendment was directed by the Planning and Zoning Commission when we recently held the annual review of the Unified Development Code. When we amend the text of the UDC, it does require a public hearing that was advertised for this evening. Need to enter into the record our growth management plan, our Unified Development Code, the notice of publication in the Journal, and the staff report submitted to you this evening. The 34th Amendment proposes 3 specific revisions. I'll briefly go through those 3. Section 1 of the, and I included a draft bill of the proposed amendment. So Section 1 of the draft bill is incorporating language into the flood protection standards of the UDC that no platted lots may encroach into the FEMA floodplain area or the 100-year flood elevation for areas not identified as special flood hazard areas. This particular language was in the zoning code before the UDC was created. And you've probably heard us, and many of our staff reports over many, many years indicate that no portion of a lot, of a platted lot, can extend into the floodplain. It was just recently where I noticed that somehow it got left out of the codification when we did the UDC. I think it was just an oversight, not intentional, because the language is there for non-residential lots. So this section just applies to residential lots. So just making sure that language is put back into the code, again, which is the way we've always interpreted the code since this was adopted, 15 plus years ago. Section 2 of the code, we're asking to clarify in the side chapter that we allow monument signs for individual lots and developments to have 1 per street frontage. So typically if you have a quarter lot, public street only, quarter lot, you're allowed to have 1 monument sign for each public street frontage. It just needed to be clarified in the code. That's always the way we've interpreted it, always the way it was intended to be. Just felt it was better to have that language spelled out within the sign chapter. The third section of the proposed bill would be a modification of the provisions regarding minor subdivision plats. And so section 470-100, a current section of our UDC, it defines the process for minor subdivision, and it defines minor subdivisions, specifically being that the proposed subdivision would create no more than 5 lots and would also not propose any new public street or easement of access. And then the third provision would be, of course, that the plat has to comply with the requirements of the UDC, meaning that each lot has to have the specific frontage and lot size for whatever the zoning is of the property. Currently, these minor plats require review by the Planning Commission and City Council. But in staff's review of that, unless the city is accepting right-of-way, a new street as part of that, it's really more of a matter of checking a box. Does a lot meet the requirement? Does it have frontage? And if it does, then it's almost a mandatory approval requirement by the city. If we have a final plat that includes a public street, then absolutely it needs to go through Planning Commission and City Council because we're accepting new roadways. Staff felt that if it's a minor subdivision, that it meets these minor requirements, less than 5 lots, no right-of-way, that it could be something that staff could review and approve, similar to certain minor changes to a site plan. If they're minor and if they meet these requirements, then staff has the ability to approve it. It still gets recorded, documented that way. It doesn't change that process. It just avoids somebody having to go through 60 days of review to get a minor subdivision. So we are proposing that change in language this evening as well. Those are the 3 amendments that we propose as part of the 34th Amendment. We've included proposed findings of fact on the text amendment, and we do recommend that the Commission accept those findings and forward the 34th Amendment to the City Council with a recommendation of approval. That concludes staff report.
Thank you, sir. And I'll get the order correct this time. So since this is a public hearing, I will invite the public to come and speak. If anybody has any questions, seeing none, close the public hearing and turn to members of the commission for any questions of the staff.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Faulkner.
So I have several questions on this. In the flood protection section, what I'm seeing on the draft ordinance looks to me like the second half of 1A, which is existing language, seems to be pretty much an exact duplicate of the new language in C. And I just simply don't understand why I'm seeing double there.
So in the proposed bill, I've got A identified, which is A1 residential construction. A and B is the current language within the UDC.
Right. Okay, starting in the middle, so capital A, 1A,
Okay.
starting about 5 words into the third line, and no platted lots may encroach. So I skipped the word and, but no platted lots may encroach. And that looks to me like the same as in lowercase c.
I could look at something 100 times
And never see it.
and not see it until you just said that. I knew it was in the code. I couldn't find it in the code.
Okay,
But to be honest with you, it clearly does not need to be duplicated.
okay. Well, it certainly could have been me too.
It's there. I thought it was there, and until you started reading that, sir, I just didn't see it.
And just for the record, I actually did look back at my code book and my, the big book, which hopefully is close to current. So I did see those words in there too. Okay.
It's a little odd that in the non-residential construction section, which I didn't print here, has it as a C,
Yeah, that's
but
weird.
it doesn't have to be. If it's in here, we don't need to amend that section.
Okay, well, shall I go on to my next question?
I want to make sure, Mr. I don't know, Mr. Cassidy.
So what do we
you see
strike?
that? Do you
Strike.
agree? Okay. I apologize for that. That was just
No.
me not reading it.
No apology necessary. That's why we have a planning and zoning commission, I think. So the next section, chapter 435 on signs, the draft ordinance calls that section 435.010, and I think it's 435.050, if you would check that.
You are correct, yeah.
Okay.
That should be 435.050.
That's an easy one. Okay, my last question. Well, I guess I shouldn't make promises. So moving ahead to minor subdivisions, section 470.100. Assuming that this change goes through, I didn't see mention of 470.010A, which is the chart showing who does what. And there's a line about the middle of that chart for minor subdivisions, which I think would be appropriate to change that line also if we agree with this, right?
That is correct, sir. Yes, so if you agree with that change, we'll want to, if we're taking away section 1 on the floodplain area, we could add that section so we update that table to show administrative approval instead of commission. Yes.
And the other is just really a philosophical question. So I'm actually on page 5 of the draft ordinance. This would be under D, procedure, 1B, subdivision plat submitted that does not qualify as minor shall be reviewed in accordance with section 470.130 final plat. And I just was wondering, why would it start there? Why would it not go back and restart under the preliminary plat ahead of final plat? What was there some thought as to why it goes back in as a final plat rather than starting life as a preliminary plat?
Thinking through this.
If I may, the introduction, where did I just read it? Oh, under C, it kind of mentions that it's supposed to meet all the requirements of a final plat. And I think that's why it's then references final plat down below. But to your point, if it should start off as a preliminary plat, maybe we need to then look at C as well, or kind of in those lines.
Can you just remove B? Could you just remove B? I mean, the presumption is if it doesn't qualify for a minor plat, all of them are going to have to go through the platting process, whether preliminary or final.
What we would have, so when we look at the top of page 5 there, where we have, so there's some situations where, let's say it was somebody submitted a plat drawing that had 6 lots, no new right-of-way, 6 lots. That could still be submitted. That doesn't require a preliminary plat.
Okay.
No new right-of-way. So in that scenario, it doesn't meet the minor subdivision process, but it meets the final plat process. But if it doesn't comply with 2, because it has a public street, maybe it's only 4 lots, but there's still a public street, then yes, in that scenario, it would require a preliminary plat because they've now included a public street. So perhaps we don't need
I think
B
I'd cut
at all.
B. Yeah.
What would happen is if it doesn't meet the requirements of a minor plat, then we have to see where does it fall into with our code. Does it fall into the scenario where it requires preliminary plat, or can it simply be a final plat because there's no public street access?
I think I'd
So
remove
just
it.
eliminate B?
I'd remove and eliminate B, in which case you'd also be basically eliminating the designation as A, and it would simply be
1.
1.
Okay.
I don't want to force us into a hasty decision, but Mr. Zer's proposal sounds good to me.
You could, in essence, even remove the 1, and it's just going to be identifiable as D.
Sure.
Procedure, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, no, oh yeah, because we're removing all of number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's
Kim, do you
going
see
on.
that? So you could remove the reference to sub 1, Development Services Director Review, remove A, and simply have it be identifiable, that paragraph, as D, procedure. And then, if I might, I understand the concept of removing the change under the residential construction because it's already there. But like you mentioned, if you look in the non-residential construction, you've got that designated as a C. So maybe one of the concepts would be delete it from 1A and incorporate it as a C so that we maintain a consistency within the terms of the code. I'm good with that as well. That would be part of the motion, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that we could make that adjustment. So we'll keep section 1, just make that change to section 1.
Removing the language from section 1A.
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
I'm good.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Given the fact that there's several changes being explained here tonight, I would make a motion that we carry over case number 21031 until such time that the modifications are made appropriately for a clear understanding of the matter.
I'll second that.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to carry over. Mr. Zur, since we've already closed the public hearing, would I need to reopen, or would we reopen at that time?
I don't think so.
Since we've made,
Yeah, I don't think you're going to need to reopen.
because we're really
You
just
took
reorganizing what was already presented.
That's correct. You took input, and the changes that are being suggested this evening are not going to be substantive changes for purposes of the code beyond what was originally presented and published, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not sure it's a set over. Is it a postponement to 2 weeks from today?
That'd be fine, yeah.
Postpone?
Which do we,
To that. I think it just makes it easier for us to understand all the changes being.
absolutely. And I would agree. My curiosity would be, presently we have November 2nd as a canceled meeting. Would we then plan
We
on-
can move it to the November 16th meeting. There's no hurry from staff standpoint to get this through, so we'll put it on the agenda for November 16th.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
A motion by the mayor, second by Commissioner Urquia to postpone the remainder of this until staff brings back a clean, revised version at our November 16th, November 16th meeting. Any discussion, further discussion for any purposes?
A quick question.
Yes, sir. Commissioner.
How many of these occurrences do you anticipate addressing on a per-year basis?
On the minor plat change,
Yes.
1 or 2, not many at all.
One of the, like tonight, our consent agenda included one that potentially could have fallen under this rule. Okay. So we need to vote. So any further discussion? If not, all in favor of moving to the September 6th or November 16th meeting, please? Or September of next year, but November 16th. I see all hands 8 in favor. So we will push that to our November 16th meeting. Thank you. Very well. That is it for our new business this evening, which I will then request a city council report, please.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the commission. I'm happy to be able to provide a city council report this evening from the most recent city council meeting, which occurred on October 11th, 2021. During the course of that meeting, there were 3 items of particular interest for the commission that I'll report on. The first and foremost was the Madison Valley rezoning from R1 to R1.5. That rezoning was approved by the council without further discussion or input. The next item on the agenda was the Madison Valley Phase 2 preliminary plat. This was the preliminary plat. You all had the opportunity to review it, and there was some discussion at this level with regard to additional conditions on timing and completion of infrastructure improvements. City Council took that into consideration and also provided to the developer an additional, removed one of the conditions and added another condition with regard to the order of infrastructure improvements, specifically the Sunset Lane that goes through the center of it. I believe that's what it was. Was that Heritage Drive and Sunset Lane? Thank you very much, Mr. Crass. Upon further discussion with the council and the desire to let the applicant be able to review that proposed condition, the council tabled that matter and will be taking it up again at a future city council meeting. The last item on the agenda for that evening was the Alexander Creek third and final plat, which was also approved by the council without much discussion beyond that. I think that concludes the city council report. As always, I would look to Mayor Turnbow as well as Mr. Carteret and Mr. Crass, as they were each in attendance and would be able to comment if there was anything additional.
Very good. Seeing a bunch of nodding no's. That would take us to our staff report, Mr. Carteret.
Thank you, sir. Looking at our calendar, with the absence of both Mr. Eppert and myself for November 2nd, we would like to cancel that meeting. We don't have any applications that really qualified for that meeting anyway, but we will have a full agenda on the 16th. In your packet, we show 2 applications, Knoll Creek preliminary plat, so Tyler Salee Homes, who's been developing Alexander Creek, has purchased the undeveloped part of Knoll Creek, the back acreage, and is proposing, in essence, a continuation of the Knoll Creek subdivision, same, keeping the zoning R1, same lot. Actually, they're oversized R1 lots, but similar layout to what Knoll Creek initially proposed there. What is interesting with that preliminary plat is when staff was meeting with Mr. Slee on Alexander Creek and became aware of his interest in Knoll Creek, the two subdivisions briefly overlap each other. And so there's discussion now, if you look at the Knoll Creek preliminary plat, is actually a connection with Alexander Creek Drive. So Salee Homes and Alexander Creek does plan on crossing the creek and developing the back end, but then the road connection would be made to Knoll Creek to get over to Prairie Lane. So we feel it's a nice east-west connection north of 58 Highway, so we're excited about seeing that. Also on your agenda is the first and second final plat for the Sendera subdivision. Again, this was Summit Custom Homes, new development south of Hubach Hill Road. So these two phases, large, I believe probably at least 100 lots combined. And it provides their ability, if you remember, they had 3 housing products or types, so it enables them to meet all 3 of those needs with the initial development. It also incorporates the amenities section, so the pool and all the amenities are part of the first plat. So excited to see that. We have 2 other applications that have been filed that weren't on your staff report. Lamore Estates, which is a single and 2-family development on the north side of Lucy Webb Road. It's near completion as far as the development. There are 2 lots remaining, and there's an island, if you would, in the middle that's completely surrounded by streets. There's 2 lots, lots 7 and 10, that were initially zoned for 2-family. Then the developer at the time felt they couldn't fit a 2-family home on the property, so they rezoned them to single family. The current developer, who's been finishing out all the other lots, does have a home, a duplex that will fit on the lots, so he would like to rezone those back to 2-family. The other lots in that island are already 2-family, so we already have to. It provides that entire island as R2 zoning. So that request is on the agenda. And then we had an application filed for rezoning of part of the Timber Trails subdivision. So south of Walmart is the existing Timber Trails townhomes, and then the Benton House facility on the outer road. So all the land area north of where Johnston Drive will be extended to meet up with Dean Avenue. It's currently zoned, I believe it's R3A, zoned for apartments. The developer, the applicant, is proposing to reclassify the zoning to PUD. What they would propose is a combination, a mixed use of small retail area, hotel, and apartments. So it's basically, he'll come in with a concept plan to show those 3 different uses on the property. So those are the 4 items we have scheduled for the 16th. We do have other applications pending out there, so I think it's going to be a busy season before Christmas. I know we're canceling the November 2nd meeting, but I don't see us canceling any of the other meetings through the end of the year. A lot of activity. So a lot of exciting things going on there, and I believe that concludes my portion of the staff report. Mr. Krause, had anything?
Very good. Thank you. This brings us to our public comment. If there's any members of the public out there that would like to come and speak, please do so at this time. Seeing none, we'll move into commission member comments. I'll just start all the way down at my end with the far right side of me, excuse me, with Commissioner Manser.
Thank you to staff.
Short and sweet. Secretary Peterman.
Welcome back. Sounds like you're busy. But you got good help. Thanks for all you guys do. Anything official on the joint meeting, the date?
Yes, so the city council last evening discussed meeting dates with the boards and commissions for calendar year 2022. What we would like to see is the joint meeting between the Planning Commission and City Council to be held on Monday, January 31st. If you recall, in the past, we did them on regular work session nights, and so there was other items on the agenda and sometimes didn't allow time for discussion of topics of interest. So this is a dedicated meeting. Just the only item would be the joint meeting with the commission and the City Council. So that's Monday, January 31st.
Do we have a tentative time for that?
They start at 7 o'clock.
At 7.
Thank you, that's all I had.
Thank you. Excellent inquiry. Commissioner Faulkner.
Yeah. Thanks to staff, and it's good to see everybody back.
Vice Chair Pfizer.
I would also like to thank staff for keeping us informed and getting us our packets early so we can be prepared. And I'd like to remind everybody that this Friday is the Raymore Trucktober at Rec Park, and it's Friday from 5:30 to 8:30. It's a chance to support some local businesses and get some good food.
Commissioner Ingert.
Thank you, staff. I appreciate your hard work and effort, and I'm really anxious to see what's in the pipeline.
Commissioner Kia.
I'll echo the sentiments of glad you're back and healthy, and as always, appreciate everything the staff does. Have a safe Halloween, everyone.
Mr. Mayor.
Nothing further to add this evening.
All right, I'll just close it out by saying thank you, as always, to staff for all the information. Welcome back, Mr. Cataret. Mr. Mustine obviously is now gone, but glad to see that he is back as well. Everybody have a happy, safe Halloween, and otherwise we will see you guys back on the 16th. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
So motion by Commissioner Kia, second by Commissioner Ingert to adjourn this evening's meeting. All in favor? Unanimous, 8-0. We are adjourned. Thank you.